Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on bridging the talent gap, smarter workforce strategies in the era of talent scarcity. My name is Marian Kure, and I'll be your MC for this session. Thank you for joining us. Another webinar brought to you by White Squares Business Consultants and Informate. Today, we'll explore innovative strategies to tackle one of the most pressing challenges businesses face, talent scarcity. So in this session, we'll deep dive into key insights from the ACCA Global Talent Trends 2025 report and what CFOs and business leaders need to prioritize to stay ahead in today's rapidly evolving talent landscape. So to help us unpack these critical topics, we are honored to have two exceptional thought leaders with us today. Brendan Sheehan, the CEO of White Squares based in Australia, brings a wealth of expertise in helping CFOs transform finance, IT, and back office functions into high performing business partners. He has a strong standing as a contributor to ACCA, having served on their Global Council from 2014 to 2023. He's currently serving on ACCA's Sustainability Global Forum and works closely with their Professional Insights team, helping them with their research in areas relevant to CFOs and finance teams. Brendan will start us today with key findings and insights from ACCA Global Talent Trends 2025 report, providing a foundation for today's webinar. Then we also have Jehan Perinpanayagam, the CEO of Informate Private Limited. He's a pioneer and thought leader in the BPO industry with over 28 years of experience. Jehan has held many leadership roles, including chairperson of Slascom and ACCA Sri Lanka. He'll build on the insights that Brendan shares, sharing some practical strategies for overcoming talent challenges, from leveraging global talent pools to embracing automation and offshoring. So without further ado, let me now hand over things to Brendan to kick off the session with his presentation on the ACCA Global Talent Trends 2025 report. Brendan, over to you.
Thanks, Marian. And yeah, it's a delight to be here again, and delighted to be able to speak to some of our interested people who work with and are interested in Informate and what White Squares do. But today I'm going to present to you a little bit of information from ACCA, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, based out of the UK, but now operating in with members and students in 185 countries around the world. So I think we've got close to 600,000 members and another close to 600,000 student members and another 250,000 members around the world. So quite a large organization with an exceptional reach out to people who are working in all different industries and all different countries around the world. So we're able to pull in some phenomenal research material to be able to support our professional insights thought leadership. This report is the third in a series that ACCA started back in 2023, looking into talent trends within the finance and accounting world. So I'm just going to introduce the paper to you, and we'll, I'm sure, be able to share a copy with people online when we send out the video as well, or links to it to ACCA's website where this is currently available. So yeah, as I said, this is from ACCA with 250,000 members, 526,000 student members from around the world, and this is the third Global Talent Trends report. There were 10,000 respondents to this report from over 175 countries. So it's effectively the largest polling of finance professionals around the world on this topic. And a key theme that has come out of this research, according to the researchers, was that accountancy can be a fantastic early career pathway for building entrepreneurial skills. And that's a theme that kind of runs through this report consistently in terms of the way generations are starting to look to how they want to work. I think there's been a lot of changes since the pandemic in 2019, 2020. And then, that's shaping the way that people and new generations want to work, and that's captured in this report. So what I was going to do is just highlight some of the key findings out of it, and then I'm going to focus in on two or three of them just for a couple of more minutes to just bring you into the key findings. But the first one is, as I talked about, that entrepreneurial spirit. So the report puts it out there that accountancy is a gateway for building entrepreneurial skills, and over half of the respondents are indicating they've clear ambitions to be entrepreneurs. So they talk a little bit through the report about how the entrepreneurial spirit can be adopted within organizations as an intrapreneur as opposed to an entrepreneur, which would be somebody who's working outside of large organizations and maybe has their own business. But that intrapreneur has the same kind of skill sets, the same behavioral attributes. Um, and it's clear that accountancy is a natural springboard to be able to eventually help people who have that entrepreneurial spirit to be able to start their own businesses. So it captures a little bit that through the report. The second main point out of the report is that there's a rise of the side hustle, and this is obviously something that's come out of post-pandemic world where individuals are looking to monetize their spare time, to say the least. But it's been driven by need for higher levels of income, but also that entrepreneurial spirit is burning in people as well. I think is coming through from it, and it's saying that younger respondents, particularly, so those Gen Z accountants, are definitely looking to run concurrently with their main job, running a side hustle, to try and build out diversification of experience, but income streams as well. The third main finding is that around hybrid working, again, one of these new words that came out of the pandemic, and 76% are saying that they want hybrid flexible working arrangements. So 3 out of every 4 people want to be able to work on their own clock, on their own time, to be able to decide when they come into the office and when they can work from home or externally. But they're also saying that only 51% of respondents actually feel that they're getting that environment that they want to work in. So there's a bit of a diversity or a gap there between what employees are looking for and what employers are offering. But I think there's further in the report, and I'll touch off this a little bit later, they talk about the benefits of being in the office and having that collective work environment. The report then, point 4, talks about ageism in accounting. Almost half of the respondents suggest that their organization continues to focus more on certain aspects of diversity than others. And it's interestingly, it's inadequate recognition of older employees that tops the list of concerns. So I'm a Gen Xer, and I think you can start to feel retirement coming along in the near future, and I think people who are working in organizations are starting to feel that the recognition as an older employee isn't probably getting the recognition that they would have hoped for. Cost of living continues to top our workplace fears index. So ACCA run a number of questions through their survey, which talks about kind of key fears. Cost of living is obviously one of them, and it's talking about that being the top fear in the survey. But they also have things about not keeping up with technology, not getting the career advantages or opportunities within organizations to be able to advance career opportunities. So, but cost of living is still a major issue. Obviously, partly linked to inflation that has happened over the last number of years, and that's obviously made its way into the cost of living and not really being kept up by wage increases. So there's that gap is increasing, and it's becoming a stressor for people. Sixth, I'm a bit surprised that this was as low as it was, that AI is upskilling is falling short. I would have thought that people were starting to embrace AI a bit more than this metric would suggest. But the key message at the bottom here, half the respondents are concerned that they're not developing the skills required for the future workplace. this may be a testimony to how fast AI is actually progressing. And there's multiple applications now that talk about how they're AI ready. I'm talking about applications within the accounting sort of world, but things like Copilot, ChatGPT, and some of those other large language models are quite prevalent now in most organizations. So, but that's only the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of the tools and technologies that organizations are using already. But I think what it goes into in a bit more detail is how our uh, employees being helped to develop skills to be able to identify opportunities for AI and how to adopt and adapt to AI. So are they getting the skills to be able to manage change, I suppose, is probably the bigger question, as opposed to the tools that need to be understood. Employability confidence is very high. There's this recognition amongst accountants that there is always going to be work for accountants, and they're always going to be employable. It's really that question of how their role shifts, and as technology advances, as it has been for as long as I've been around, but certainly since computers have been around, the role of accountants has been changing faster and faster. And there's always more value that accountants can add, and I think that's recognised not just by the employees in the survey, but also by the employers. And organizations are looking for ways to utilize accountants more effectively. And if they can build on those skills using technology and they can build on their analytical and risk management type of skill sets, then they'll be increasingly employable. Then as we get down into the last few items on the report, so mental health indicators are showing some improvement, but they remain challenging. So organization flight risk continues to be a key issue linked to mental health. And what they're saying here is that there's a major risk for organizations of losing their key employees and key talent by not looking after their mental health and addressing some of the challenges and stresses, those cost of living stresses, the stresses about not feeling like they're getting opportunities for their career path and not getting opportunities to use technology to advance their career, all those kind of things. So if they're not getting the support and the opportunities that they're looking for, then there's a risk that they'll jump ship and either go somewhere else or retire early, I suppose, is another option, or go into that entrepreneurial world and start their own business. So as large organizations, government bodies and large corporates, if you're looking to hold on to the best talent, you really need to be listening to what they say they need. Point nine, the demand for sustainability related careers increasing, getting faster, in more demand. And there's a number of other reports that ACCA have come out with in the recent past around the future of the finance function, the future of the accountant, and these new roles that are emerging around sustainability and AI are creating those additional opportunities we were speaking about earlier on. But sustainability is a massive area of growth. The amount of investment in green technology and the increasing demands on organizations to be able to report on their carbon footprint through IFRS 1 and 2 reporting, the carbon accounting, that is really creating this demand for accountants with that skill set and that understanding of the full range of sustainability reporting and data capture and analysis. So a real opportunity sector there for accountants. And then finally, the 10th and final point in the report talks about accountancy training remaining a gateway for global careers. So it is a passport to travel. It is something that is globally recognized as a skill set, highly employable all over the world. I don't think there's any countries in the world where the demand for accountants is going down. So there's always that opportunity to be able to take your skill set and travel and explore the world as you go. There's obviously, the younger you are, the easier it is to uproot and go to other countries, and that's when you should be taking those opportunities. So if anybody is in that Gen Z bracket and listening in here today, take the hint from ACCA's research and and take the opportunity to travel and get better experiences around the world. And then you can bring that back to your home country later on when you want to settle down and maybe help to grow organizations or in your home countries. But yeah, the opportunities to grow with the accountancy qualification is huge. So I'm not going to spend a huge amount of detail on the rest of it, but go into a lot more detail. I'm just going to flick through this as we go it. But yeah, they go through each one of those points that I talked about in quite a bit of detail. Talk about the entrepreneurs piece, but they also really talk about the entrepreneurial spirit. They talk about having the opportunities within organizations to practice and use entrepreneurial skills within a large organization, and that's a different skill set. You don't necessarily have direct reports reporting to you. It's not something where you necessarily build a large organization around you. That ability to be able to work with multiple people in the organization, no matter where they are, up, down, or across the organization, and to adopt technology is really important. So those skill sets will help you to get real advantages internally in organizations. You can see how there's a little bit of a spread in here in terms of types of the desire from the respondents, depending on which countries they're from. So in Africa, there is an absolutely massive desire for the entrepreneurial career path. So very, very strong on looking for opportunities to work in their own business and build their own businesses. Some of the mature Western markets like Western Europe or North America, it's a little bit less, although North America is quite high, as you can imagine, with the US capitalist economy. Central Europe, yeah, quite low there, 40, and Asia Pacific 41. But India, and I'm sure we have a few people listening in from Sri Lanka, that entrepreneurial spirit is burning brightly over there as well. So very interesting insights from the research in there. I'm just going to shift down quickly to the AI one, and then we might pause it at that and hand over to Jehan for a bit of a run through his. So where are we here? Number 6, wherever I am. Just give me 2 seconds. There we go. So is AI upskilling in the workforce falling short? So a major concern for individual accountants is that they don't have the right skills to be able to advance in their careers in the future, that the technology is moving too fast. And I don't think that's just a problem for accountants, and I don't think it's just a problem for older accountants either. I think technology is moving so fast that it's going to be very difficult for anybody to really catch up. I was reading a paper there a little while ago called 2027 or AI 2027, and they were literally talking about how by the end of 2027, which is only really 2.5 calendar years away, how AI will be at that level of what they're calling the singularity, where it becomes so powerful, the processing power of the artificial intelligence becomes more powerful than the human brain. So it's starting to advance quicker and quicker and quicker than we can actually keep up with it, and that it's starting to make decisions of its own. So it's starting to become a little bit autonomous in the way that it operates. So that's how fast it's going. And this paper was written by some very senior people within the AI community who kind of they can see the future a bit closer than I can. But yeah, that sense that things are speeding up is definitely there for sure. Younger employees are not. They're more concerned about technology change and AI adoption. I think that's possibly because the older accountants have a little bit more experience under their belt, a little bit more ability to work with other people in the organization, a bit more experience from pre-AI days. But yeah, there's certainly a sense across the whole respondent community around this kind of overwhelm of the pace of change, and they have concerns within their of the impact of AI on their own role. So I think the big message out of this is that pitch in, find out more about what you know in terms of what your organization is doing with AI. Learn skills as you go offline on your own, or develop them within confines of the organization, and that will certainly help you as things move on. So look, I don't want to spend too much more time on that. The report is 75 pages long. I'd encourage everybody to download it from ACCA's website. We'll send out the link afterwards. And yeah, I think if we can, yeah, we'd maybe have some questions and answers, Marianne, after at the end of this, and we can take it from there.
Thanks, Brendan. Thank you
over to you, Jehan.
Thank you very much. Indeed, Brendan, fascinating insights. So I'd like to share a few thoughts based on my own research and own experience interviewing Australian CFOs. And a lot of these findings actually mirror ACCA's own research that Brendan just presented. So the recent talent trends in Australia, shortage of talent is seen as a major threat to growth, 41% increase year on year, and this is among CFOs surveyed. Right? So they see this as a limiting factor in their growth. The Great Resignation amongst young people is starting to take hold. Australia's job vacancy rate is at the highest level, apparently since the Mad Max movies first appeared. Right? The employee place less value today on job security and instead prioritize remuneration and well-being. Right? So there's a complete shift in the mindset of employees. 38% of workers surveyed plan to quit as their expectations, both in terms of well-being and in terms of remuneration, were not being met. Finance professionals, above others, valued hybrid work. 85% of workers surveyed highlighted a decline in well-being, in the mental and physical well-being as per HBR. Coursera highlighted worker burnout as a #1 reason for resignations. So the talent challenges for recruiters, 67% of financial institutions reported a significant difficulty filling specialized roles. Recruitment timelines sometimes were 4 months and beyond for critical positions. Evolving skill demands, particularly for finance business partners, new roles like financial analytics with data analytics, CFOs with a digital age, aging workforce, which Brendan also referred to, regional disparities. Today, there's a big migration of talent to the bigger cities, and some of the other cities you have a shortfall. Right? So I think with the Olympics coming to Brisbane, we are seeing a big migration that way. Of course, Sydney and Melbourne would have perhaps a preponderance of talent, but in other areas, you have a shortage of talent, high attrition rates, and recent changes to skilled visa programs, limiting international recruitment. This was a tool that a lot of companies use to bridge the gaps, and that's starting to close. Increasing costs of hiring and retaining talent, right? So the CFOs have a separate set of challenges fueled by the market dynamics, increasing regulatory pressures, demand for greater returns, rising operational costs. The mismatch between technology and the skills of the current talent pool, exactly what Brandon shared, and amidst all of these growing cyber threats. So the evolving workforce expectations today, professionals seek flexibility, purpose, and better work-life balance. Hybrid and remote work today are expected today. All of you will know in interviews, employees ask, does this involve office work or is there a hybrid? Is there the option of working from home? Younger talent prefers project-based roles over traditional employment. As we saw previously, they are less concerned about security. Wellness is prioritized. There's expectation of higher returns, so more for less. Job security, as you saw, is less important. So the CFO imperatives today are how to drive digital transformation, how to bring about data governance and cybersecurity, ESG reporting, risk management, and how to manage your talent, right? And today, 28% of finance divisions are using AI for planning. 44% say that they plan to use technology. And strategy and growth today, the imperative for growth, for global growth, is much more demanding. There's a need and a push for finance transformation, a push to incorporate technology. We're just talking to one of our clients, and they are asking the question, how many AI agents are you deploying? What are you doing on sustainability? And despite the push from the Trump administration in the US, what we see in Europe, that they are staying the course as far as sustainability is concerned, and how to maintain trust with the market. So some of the buzzwords being thrown around in CFO circles: predictive analytics and financial intelligence, fearlessly driving strategic investment, navigating complex challenges like the tariffs, collaboration across C-suite members, and embracing new technology. And some research from Hackett: a traditional finance company looks like your pyramid, where the bulk of the time is spent on transactional services. The bulk of your focus and energy is on transactional services, and very little time left over for more analytical services and for thinking. But today, with technology and with strategic outsourcing, we are able to flip the pyramid, where the majority of the CFO time is devoted to analytics, to thinking, to strategizing, and a need to devote much less time to the more transactional work. Right? So a world-class company looks like your inverted pyramid. So some of these solutions: rethinking talent strategy, right? Customized employee value proposition, or EVPs, and how you communicate that to the employees. Employee branding that focuses on purpose and flexibility, and the need to invest in employee branding. Invest in well-being. There's research that every dollar invested in well-being has a return of $2.3 in terms of employee productivity. Companies will need to budget for annual pay increases and more frequent reviews and more frequent increment cycles, almost biannual or sometimes even more frequent than that. People are not willing to wait for the annual cycles. Out of the box thinking in terms of thinking of remuneration, like child care subsidies. Look at getting talent from second cities. We saw this in India. We are seeing this increasingly in other parts of the world. We are not able to rely purely on the talent from the tier one cities. Collaborations with universities to have work-ready professionals. Start leveraging AI and digital platforms, and the need to upskill staff and widen your talent pool. We're looking at retraining people from other disciplines into our discipline. So these are some of the novel thinking around talent strategies. And one final thought about how shared services and outsourcing could help you free up bandwidth and headspace to focus on what's really important, on finance business partnering, on finance strategy, on future-proofing the business, on risk management. Whilst you have the more repetitive mundane activities either being done from your own shared services center or through a strategic outsourcing partner. So we're looking at activities like your AP, AR, GL, reconciliations, fixed asset management, master maintenance. Increasingly, companies in Australia are using an outsourcing partner located in India, Philippines, and in Sri Lanka to free them up from the more repetitive tasks so that they can focus on what's really important for the business. So let me leave it there. We are right on time, half an hour. And so we have a good 15, 20 minutes for Q&A.
Thanks, Jehan. Thank you for those valuable insights. So, in a nutshell, what we are seeing is that the future of finance talent is becoming more entrepreneurial, hybrid, global, tech driven, and also at the same time more human. So, this brings its own challenges and opportunities. So, moving on to Brendan, you've seen lots of transformations happening and you've helped CFOs with those transformations. Now, since we know these are the trends and this is what the data speaks, how do you think CFOs should look at this report? Is it a warning? What should they do about it? How should they interpret the results?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. I think you can see through the report and some of the statistics that were coming through that there's a bit of a gap between what employees are expecting and what employers are expecting, or what employees are expecting, what they're actually getting. So that's reflective of what employers are providing. So I think there's that gap in there, and that would be in organizations' best interest to close that gap. I think as technology becomes more pervasive, as AI becomes more pervasive, then the talent the best organizations are going to want the best talent. So if you want to attract the best talent, you've got to provide them with the opportunities and the tools and the environment and the opportunity, the learning opportunities to grow in their organization. So I would see it as a information to help the employers to and CFOs particularly to understand what their key future talent is looking for. So take it as an opportunity in that sense. But obviously it's a warning sign if you don't. I mean, it's an existential risk for most organizations if you don't get the right talent that you need, and that goes way beyond just accountants. It goes into all aspects of it. But certainly within the accounting sphere, the best talent will be looking for the best opportunities, and it will create that dynamic, that competitive advantage for whoever has the right people working for them. So are CFOs actually addressing that? I'm not sure that they realize the extent of the potential risk there. So it's probably something this report will help to highlight for them a little bit more.
Thanks, Brendan. And moving on to Shehan, so I think that presents you an opportunity as well, because as we saw in the report, talent is becoming more global. And since you are helping organizations to overcome this issue through extended workforces, how do you think such an approach will enable CFOs to focus more on the value adding activities, as you said, in terms of shifting that pyramid?
No, absolutely. And this is something that we are seeing increasingly from companies in Australia. They're beginning to really think. So rather, it's today, you should do it or be left behind.
Mm.
So it's no longer an option. And increasingly, most of the big companies either have their shared services or outsourcing unit. And I encourage those who have not yet taken the lead to start trialing this, because COVID has taught us that work can be done very effectively from any part of the world. And today with technology, we've got Teams, you've got the option to be able to directly see employees and then interact with them real time. And today, outsourcing providers are becoming increasingly sophisticated in terms of working the calendars and the time zones of the client, of having dedicated teams, of being able to build relationships across. So a lot of the traditional gaps that were there and the sort of fears or the concerns that people had about having offshore teams, people are seeing very good solutions for each of those, right? And as we saw, there are so many pressing imperatives, right? The things that really need focus of a CFO: how to navigate the Trump tariffs, how to ensure global growth, how to handle the geopolitical challenges. I mean, with Australia today, it's about China. You've got the war in Ukraine and Russia that are impacting some of their export markets. You've got increasing regulatory pressures. Now, in the midst of all of this, you don't want to be burdened with, say some supplier saying that, I don't want to continue supply because I'm not being paid, or some audit quit, right? So you just want all of those petty concerns to be taken care of someone else. And increasingly, employees too want to work in more strategic areas. So you want to use your onshore talent for things that like finance business partnering, on managing your risk, on looking at pricing strategies, on growth strategies, and not to worry about some of the more mundane activities. So I think it's an imperative. If you're not on board, you should immediately start exploring, look at partners, and look at all of your sort of more transactional work being handled by a partner, and use your onshore team for what's most important for your business.
Thanks, Jehan. I would also like to invite the audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it on chat. Sorry, Brendan, were you going to add on
Yeah,
to
I
something? Yeah.
was. I was just going to add on to what Jehan is saying. I think there's a real opportunity for organizations to be able to leverage talent from overseas. There's no, as Jehan said, with since the the pandemic, the world is open now. You can do work from anywhere around the world, and I think one of the real tests. I've had this conversation with a number of my CFO clients. Ask your employees, can they do their job at home? And if they can do the job at home, well, then there's no reason why that job can't be done elsewhere. So really, and this isn't about, getting rid of, expensive onshore staff and replace it with cheap offshore staff. That's not the point of it. To Jahan's comment there, it's about leveraging the people who are onshore in Australia for activities that are valuable to be done onshore. So making sure that you've got face-to-face required activities being done onshore obviously makes more sense than having somebody tucked away in the back office of a B grade building in some lower part of the city doing accounts payable reconciliations. So if you've got good customer facing business partnering type of roles, business partnering activities, areas where relationship building is really, really important, then that's what you should be focusing on as an onshore role. Everything else you should really look under the radar or under the microscope and see can it be offshores and done in a place where there is pools of exceptional talent that are geared up for that. I think one of the lessons, I think I'm only on the touching off the edge of this, but one of the big reasons why China wasn't actually that bothered about America's tariffs is because they have exceptional supply chain mechanisms in there. They've had 20 years of, in fact, more than that, of building exceptional high class manufacturing systems. So they'll just keep producing that stuff, and then it'll become cheaper for everywhere else around the world. They're not going to be bothered by the tariffs. So I think what my point on that is, there's real expertise has been developed in pockets and areas around the world in certain specialist areas. And I think Sri Lanka, as an example, has got one of the best breeding grounds and development grounds for accounting talent in the world. So organizations should be looking to leverage that skill set as much as they possibly can.
Thanks, Brendan. Brendan, you also touched upon AI, and the report said that CFOs are lagging behind, whereas the technology itself is exponentially growing. I think one of the biggest issues is there's a wait and see approach, waiting for successful use cases. Because as CFOs, we also put on the cost benefit when it comes to any project, and this is a huge transformation piece. So how do you see this? How do you think CFOs need to navigate this challenge?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like AI is probably one of the first questions that people ask me when I go meet them first. What do you know about AI? What are other organizations doing with AI? I don't think anybody's actually cracked the code yet. I think there's a lot of organizations trying and experimenting and a little bit of sandboxing of things, but there's been very little disruptive use of AI. I think what it's doing is it's empowering individuals to become more productive. So that's probably what we're really seeing now. So as an individual accountant, you can use the likes of Copilot to be able to do things in Excel, for example, or through the likes of Power BI and those Microsoft tools that are making your work go faster. So your own individual productivity is improving. And I think as a collective across an organization, we're seeing that as well. That the rising tide is lifting all ships. So I think there's still a lot of experimentation though, and I think it probably needs to be a little bit more structured. It's like any kind of strategy that you have in an organization. It should be planned and thought through, and you're obviously allocating resources to that learning and development, and you want to have the best return on that investment and those allocation of those resources to ensure that you get the right outcome. So I think doing it in a structured and an organized manner makes absolute sense to me. And I think, yeah, there's probably, some organizations that probably aren't putting in as much investment into it or giving their employees as much time as they probably could to experiment and to work with other parts of their organization on AI and other technologies. And that's not to say that there aren't examples of organizations that are leveraging AI incredibly well. So don't get me wrong. But I feel that's a little bit of a long tail. I think the bulk of people are still in that sort of individual experimentation and productivity growth. So I think yeah, there's definitely opportunities. The ACCA's report talks about where the key opportunities are for accountants to leverage it in terms of commentary and analysis and analysis of variances and things like that. That sort of deep thinking stuff that can take a lot of time for accountants. You can quickly get through that, and then you can start to add some enrichment to it over time. So yeah, I think we'll see it moving a lot faster though in coming years, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Jehan, you also mentioned that some of your clients are asking what's your usage of AI in terms of delivering services to them. So I think in terms of a service provider angle also that is having an impact. So how do you see that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we need to disrupt ourselves before the disruption is, compelled or forced on us. As a proactive service provider, we've always tried to lead in the area of technology. Even almost 2 decades ago, when we started, we looked at building our own workflow and document management system. We were able to integrate it with SAP. I remember when we had a very challenging procure-to-pay process for one of the companies that I think you might be familiar with, in the destination management company in the industry. We built the country's first supply portal, right? So giving suppliers the ability to see their own purchase orders, to upload invoices electronically, track the status of their settlements on mobile and on the web. If they had any disputes, that they could chat and we created a sort of a meta type of interface. So we've always been leading in the area of technology adoption because we realize that's fundamental to what we do. We've had some, false starts, perhaps with things like RPA, which have not really lived up to expectations. But it's important that we keep trying, and that we don't stop the cycle of innovation. And there's a sense that AI is really the real deal. And this is going to be transformational. So we are fast tracking the adoption into what we do so that we also can start moving up the value chain in terms of offering more advisory services, more knowledge intensive services, more management reporting, and a suite of other more knowledge intensive services, whilst technology will increasingly take over the more repetitive routine tasks.
Thanks, Jehan. And I think another shift that is happening is in terms of the skill set required, as you said, mentioned before, in terms of sustainability, in terms of climate reporting. I'm sure we also have some early careers in this in our audience today. So in terms of building those skill set apart from the core finance skills, how do you think, if you are giving some advice to them, especially the ones which are starting their accounting and finance career, how do you think this data should be read?
That's me.
Yeah, over to both. Any of you who would like to go ahead first?
Look, I think there's no doubt that sustainability is a major driver within in Western economies, particularly. at the moment. There's been a lot of investment in green technologies over the last few years, and it's getting increasingly so. I think some of the rollbacks of policies positions in the US, I don't think is going to really hold that back. I think the rest of the world is just getting on with what they know is the right thing to do, to transition into a clean energy. I know I work with three of the major utility organizations over here in Australia, and they all have a very, very strong investment uh, interest in green technologies. So they're all very much number one priority is to support Australia's transition to the clean economy. Um, that's not to say that there won't be, a future need for coal and oil and those fossil fuels. Like they're always going to be around, but the more that we can leverage greener technologies, the better. And how to adapt to a changing climate, I think is another one. At this stage, it almost feels like um, it's not a case of stopping climate change. It's a case of becoming resilient around the change that's going to happen. So I think there's going to be future investment around that as well. But I think the skill sets of accountants go from top to bottom, in terms of understanding the business case, investment case, managing investments, reporting, helping to understand the operational requirements in organizations to be able to support the implementation of those investments. So what kind of workforce, what kind of technology do you need to be able to deliver, talk the report. And what I'm seeing in a lot of accounting finance functions is this development of that entrepreneurial spirit within finance teams even, and that's a real change of mindset for finance teams who tended to in the past to be introverted, and very deeply analytical. But there's now a personality about finance, and a lot of finance people are working very hard on developing stakeholder relationship management skills, not just within their organization but externally as well. And they're getting out of their office and they're going to meet other like-minded people and their peers in other organizations to learn about what they're doing and how they can collaborate with each other. So I think it's through building those relationships that you get more knowledgeable about the technical knowledge, because it's not like you can read a book on this stuff. It's moving so fast, and it is a new industry. This is like a revolution, AI driven revolution as well. It's not like we're talking about one revolution with AI, but also on green technology as well and climate technology as well. I know ACCA have a report coming out later this year on climate technology. And they wanted to get that out because they were finding that their members just weren't sure of what technology was important to be aware of. So they pulled together a task force to be able to get that knowledge together in a group and produce this report to give people a bit of a head start, finance and accountants a head start in what kind of technology they can use. So it's early. It's the early growth of an industry. I think as individuals, you need to get out there and learn as much as you can from as many sources as you can. The internet, from books, yes, but also from people who are going through the experience themselves, and pick up, build those relationships, make friends, share stories, share adventures, and yeah, learn from each other.
Thanks, Brendan. Since we've now approached the final 10 minutes of the webinar, I would like to ask from both of you, if you could give one piece of advice to a CF for trying to future-proof their talent strategy off the back of this ACCA report, what would it be?
Jehan, I'll let you go first. No, you go ahead.
One thing. So maybe I'll share a couple. The first would be AI, right? And make sure that you start upskilling your team on the use of technology. Take a few use cases, start trialing it. And the other thing that I must mention related to that is that staff today really value knowledge. So at Informate, we've created what we call the Informate University, where there's a whole range of training and knowledge that is being imparted constantly. And that is a retention and an attraction strategy. So it's a win-win situation where you are investing in the future. You are looking at how AI could be adopted. You're also adding a lot of value to your own team, and you're sort of increasing the likelihood of retention of your top talent. The second would be to explore strategic outsourcing. Right? I think it's a must-have that you have a global workforce, that you mitigate risk, that you have a multi-country talent pool, and why limit yourself in terms of borders when technology really provides it. Those would be the two things that I would say are must add-ons to your talent strategy.
Yeah, I think couldn't agree more with what Jehan is saying. They're the kind of opportunities and learning opportunities that employees are looking for sure. I think broadly speaking, if you step back from the ACCA's report, it's all about, for me, how do you attract the best talent? It's telling you what the best talent is looking for from a relationship with their employer, and it touches off things like entrepreneurial opportunities or entrepreneurial opportunities, flexible working to allow them to work from home at their own pace and to potentially have a side hustle going as well. They're looking for those learning opportunities and development opportunities around technology, including AI. They're looking for their mental health and well-being to be considered and looked after. They're not looking to be used and abused as employees. They're looking for a collaborative relationship and a partnership between employee and employer to be able to get the most out of that relationship. And that goes all the way down towards what organizations are doing and what their purpose in the world is. I think I remember hearing this years ago, but I think it was around the time that Gen Y people were starting to come into the workforce, and they had changed the mind shift in interviews. Rather than the employer asking the person, why should you work for us? Tell us why you should work for us. The employee was asking the employer, tell me why I should work for you. And I think just changing that mindset a little bit and just leveling that relationship between employee and employer. At the end of the day, we're all individuals working in organizations to make a difference in the world. And I think that is a really important dynamic to recognize and respect. And then through that, you'll get the most out of your talent, and you'll attract the best talent and you'll keep the best talent. So I think that's the key message for me: respect and equalize.
Yeah, and it's very clearly coming out from the report as well. Although there's more focus on embracing technology, and likewise, the workforce also expect you to be more human. And with hybrid working, I think it poses its own challenges. So that's becoming even more important. So in a nutshell, I think tackling this issue needs a combination of innovation, strategic focus, and also adaptability. So with this leveraging new talent pools, new skills, embracing automation, or reshaping the role of finance itself, with organizations like Informate and White Squares, the opportunities to create smarter workforce strategies is also within the reach. So might as well act now, as Jehan said, until we unknowingly realize that all these changes are like consuming us. Yeah, so those are like the final remarks from me. So thank you all for joining with us today for this insightful webinar, and I hope that you find these discussions around the ACCA Global Talent Trends 2025 report thought-provoking. So if you do have any questions or would like to continue this conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And like Brendan said, we'll share the link with all the participants so that you can visit the ACCA website and download the report. So we encourage you to stay connected and keep an eye out for future webinars from Informate and White Squares. So thank you again for being with us today. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks.